Hi, kittens. I'm Julie Savone, psychedelic facilitator, integration expert, and your guide for this wild ride, the Inner Trip 365 Days with Plant Medicine. I've helped hundreds of people use plant medicine, primarily psilocybin, to heal, expand, and step into their next level. But this year, I'm taking it even deeper. For the next 365 days, I'm bringing you with me. I'll be microdosing, journeying, integrating, and exploring what it really means to live a limitless life, with plant medicine as a tool, not a crutch. So if you're ready to feel more alive, more clear, more limitless, and you're down to do it with mushrooms and a little bit of sass, you're in the right place. Let's take the inner trip. Hello, kitten. My intention today is to talk to you, to demystify with you this thing that can feel really elusive. It can feel like a buzzword. It can feel like, what does that even mean? But truly is the thing that changes everything in coaching, in therapy, in life, and is my specialty, is a thing that I focus 90% of my energy on in all of my work, which is integration, right? What is integration? We hear it tossed around, and today I want to get really clear on giving you a very digestible in definition that you can you can share with someone, that you can put in your own words and have someone else get and be like, oh yeah, I totally get that. And I also want to give you some really clear examples on where integration is missing and what it would look like, how you could know when you fully have integrated something, right? Whether that be an insight from therapy or some aspect from a coaching program, etc. So this was something that came to me in the shower, so you know it's going to be a good one. I was like, how have I not had I've had episodes dedicated to like my integration exercise post journey and what has come up for me in my integration, but I've never sat down and really just like dug into integration with you. And I feel like that's a long time coming, and I'm excited to get into it today. So, integration is another word for embodiment. It means living the insight that we gained. And one of the things that I see as a huge problem, whether it be in coaching or in therapy or in any other transformational setting, is that we feel, for whatever reason, I'm not sure exactly where it comes from, but when we gain an insight into something, that we should just suddenly, our timeline should be 100% different, right? We should show up 100% different. It's like, oh, I have this realization about why I respond so defensively when someone critiques me. And it's because of this. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. So, like, I won't ever do that again. And then, whether it be after they walk out of the office or a week later or a month later, they find themselves being in that defensive state. They say, oh my God, like, I get it. Why? I know why I do this now. Why do I keep doing it? It's because you have an awareness and you have an understanding, but you haven't integrated the practical effects of that understanding, right? So if you had fully integrated the practical effects of that understanding, you would no longer react in that way, because not only did you get why that's your default setting, but you had made the complete switch in coherence within yourself to no longer need, utilize, actually use the strategy of defensiveness, right? And we have this perception that it should just happen immediately, but that's not what real life looks like. Real life takes some more time. I would like to tell my clients, after they have a big session, maybe it is a big realization, maybe we've done some timeline work, right? To think about, okay, it's just 51% of the time. My goal is to 51% of the time to be living in the embodiment, aka the actual doing of the insight, to be living in the embodiment of it 51% of the time, because it's not going to be 100%. There are some things now that I feel 100% embodied in, and it's often the things that have no like emotional resonance. So I had this realization recently around, we'll call them resolutions or goals or commitments, right? Whatever word works for you. I'm going to paint you a little story of this. So there was a time 5 or 6 years ago when my values have always really mattered to me. Living by my values, having clear values, that's always been a very key part of my work. And I wrote down my core values, and I found them recently when I was going home. It was, taped up to my wall in my childhood bedroom, because at the time it was the pandemic and I was living in it back home with my mom. And I looked at that and I was thinking about the values, which were consistent, like they're still my core values, and how some of them I really like, it's a very conscious effort toward, right? Like win-win, creating win-win situations, joy, making sure that joy is present in my life. Joy is a theme that if you've listened to the podcast thus far, you know joy is a consistent theme. Joy is a priority for me, right? But that's the thing, it's a priority. It's something that like I am directing my attention toward and feeling like that I get to focus on this, right? So I was looking at all these words, and there was one word where I realized I didn't direct a lot of attention or focus to it, but like I was doing it, and that word was committed. I was committed. Like the thing is, I am committed. It became a way of being for me, and I was thinking about this of like I wasn't trying to be committed. I simply was. And then I was looking at a list of, instead of making declarations, last year I decided to start making like a list of things that I would love to have happen in that year. Right. And I was looking through all of them, some of them I did, some of them I didn't. And one that I did that on its face, you might think it requires a lot of effort, but didn't require any effort from me, was like be outside every day. I love to be outside. People know that I'm outside a lot. Like if you are on my Instagram at all, like I'm outside all the time. And I wasn't at that point. I was not outside every day. And I think a big reason why I wrote that down was because coming off of knee surgery, like it really limited my mobility. Obviously. And I wanted to come back to that, right? So be outside every day. And it's easier. I used to live in San Diego. Easier in San Diego than it is in Kansas City because Kansas City has all 4 seasons, right? But what did I end up doing this year? I got a dog. I got a dog that I walk every day, that I play outside with all the time. Like I didn't have to consciously think about doing that thing. That thing just happened for me. And so what I realized with these two things, whether like this feeling of being committed, this value of committedness, or this declaration like I'm going to be outside every day, I fully integrated those two things. I fully integrated them. There was no like 51, 49%, because it felt like there could be just an on and off switch in those. It was like it's something I could just do, right? And why did I feel that I could just do it? Because there wasn't any story around it for me, right? Like there is a story that like you have to in my mind, you have to prioritize joy. Like joy doesn't just happen. Joy is an effort. So is win-win, etc. Right? And so when I felt there wasn't a story, when I felt like committedness was just a switch that I could flip, then it was possible for me to just completely jump into 100%. But those are very rare things, right? I tell you this story to point out that it's very rare that something has no story for you. Being outside every day had literally no story for me. But when I think about like a big trip to Asia that didn't happen last year that I wanted to happen, there's a ton of resistance pops up in my mind of like, oh my gosh, I have to plan this. And like, is it going to work with work? And like that flight is so long to get to Asia and all of this stuff, right? For what it's worth, like when you think about those big realizations you have in therapy or in coaching or whatever about like who you are and how you got here and like the why behind the you and the behavior and all of that, there is a ton of story. And so we beat ourselves up and we think, why aren't I just 100%? Well, it's because there's a lot of emotional like stickiness within ourselves that's connected to the realization we have that makes it harder for us to just like completely jump into the new timeline and be 100% in. So it's very rare. I shared that story to show it's very rare to 100% integrate something just like from the jump, right? If it ever becomes 100% and it's not like a process, then we've removed all resistance toward it, which is great. Like that would be so amazing, but it's also not something that is, I don't want to have it out there as like the expectation or the desire, because that's a lot of cleanup, and I don't want people to always feel like they have to be working on themselves, right? So giving yourself that space to like integrate and to live in the end goal and the embodiment of 51% of the time is something that I think a lot of people can get their bodies behind, can get their nervous system behind. Because integration is this bridge between like the insight and the action. It's the part where you fully step into what the breakthrough practically looks like in your life. And so I want to get into like real life ways integration plays out. And before I do that, I want to tell you about why this is such a core part of my this is the framework of Limitless Woman, right? The framework is called Integrate to Elevate, because I see integration as the thing that is missing in literally all pieces of work: business programs, therapy programs, manifestation coaching, the podcast, like books, like let them. Most people create programs or work or impact that stop before the integration really begins, and that is the opposite of what I have done with the Integrate to Elevate framework. That's the opposite of what I've done with Limitless Woman. Inside Limitless Woman, month 3 is fully dedicated to integration. It is your recalibration zone. So oftentimes in programs and therapy and whatever, it feels like you're drinking out of a fire hose the whole time. Like there's so much information, you're almost like drowning trying to stay afloat of all of it. And so in the program, I'm going to give you plenty of information. I really pride myself on giving you the exact amount of information you need. I think a lot of programs like overstuff the turkey with like too much stuff, and then you're never going to use it and you feel overwhelmed and you feel like you wasted the program, etc. So inside Limitless Woman, we're going to spend 2 months really building the tools, getting clear, and like really taking that time for expansion and testing out and living in your zone of genius. And then we're going to take a beat on purpose to just figure out like what's really landing, what's sustainable, what's not sustainable, where's your gap, what still needs support. And this is why my clients don't crash after programs with me, right? They glide into their next level with like a clarity and a confidence. And if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I know, even before I get into all these like practical examples of like where integration fails and like how it would look instead to integrate, but if you're listening to this and you're like, I want that level of support and I want that focus on integration with the space to make sure that what I'm learning applies to me, sticks, feels good, then DM me Limitless on Instagram, or check the show notes to learn more. Because this is the place to do it. It is my incubator. I only open it twice a year. There's only 10 women. And the whole framework, Integrate to Elevate, obviously, is based around this process of integration. So let's really talk about like specifically when it comes to programs, right? And retreats and business gurus and therapy. So like I'm sure we've all been in these containers that felt really amazing in the moment, right? Maybe while you were in the business mastermind, there was all this energy from all these other people and you had these ideas and you're like, yes, this sounds so good, and you're excited and you're feeding off other people's energy. Same with retreats. It can even be the same with coaching, right? Or therapy. Like you really like your therapist and it feels really good in session and you're really jiving. But then it ends, whether it be like the session or the program overall, and then you just feel there's like this emptiness. Right? It's almost like you're hungry. Like, oh, I don't actually feel that. I don't feel that satiated. And it's not that like the content was bad that you were learning or the facilitator or the therapist wasn't amazing. They were, but it's that there wasn't space to figure out how it all fits into your life. This is the pattern that I see. It's overstuffed, super info heavy programs that leave you drown. And like this could happen in therapy too, right? Where you're like drowning in insights, or you're drowning in these PDFs, and you're drowning in all these like strategies and tools that you need to be implementing, but there is no space for it all to land. There is no space for you to be like, okay, cool, so now I know what a funnel is and a freebie, but like how does this look in my business? And when you feel like you have to learn all of this information in a set amount of time, because coaching programs and things like that, right? They have an end date. Then you're like constantly in the learning absorption phase, and there is never that space to letting it land. That is something that it just happens. I see over and over all in our society in general. It's like there's this perpetual desire for more, whether it be more stimulation, more information. But there's never the like trying on period. It's almost like what we're doing with clothes too, right? Where people like buy all these clothes for Amazon and then they get them and like plenty of them don't fit, versus like if we had just gone to the store and tried it on and like, did a lap or something, we would see, oh, okay, actually I don't like the way these jeans fit. Like it kind of rides funny right here and like shalala. And we just don't have that space in society. We don't have that space in programs, in support, in expansion tools. And so we never really know what is ours until we get to the point where like that container is closed, the support is no longer available except for an extra charge, right? And then we're like, oh, okay, as a matter of fact, I don't really like this. This doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel like me. And I don't see the focus and the priority being on creating that space while someone still has support. Here's how you know that you've really integrated something, right? So when you are learning a new tool, it can feel really uncomfortable. And I know a lot of people, a lot of my clients come to me and they say, I have a really hard time saying no. It's interesting because they're so successful, right? They've built these really big businesses, and they've scaled the corporate ladder, and they really crush it. And oftentimes I find the way of like them, well, saying no actually, like it does come up a lot. I've had clients who like feel like they can't say no when their business coach, for example, says, oh, this is like the thing to do, this is a strategy to use, and so they just end up saying yes, or like doing it anyway, following along, even though they know it doesn't feel good to them because they think they need to do it for success. It definitely comes up for my clients in like romantic relationships or situations like that, where it's like, I know that I'm not interested in this guy, but I keep going out on dates with him because I don't want to hurt his feelings, or I feel like I owe him some amount of my time or whatever. And you know that you fully integrated a different level of respect for yourself and your own energetic agreements and your own energy when you can say no and feel good about the no, right? It wasn't like a no and like, oh, I'm bracing for backlash. It's a no that's grounded, it's clear, it's direct, it's like 100% just lands. And that's a time when you know, like, okay, like I've integrated this. I've integrated this concept of like my energy, my priorities, my desire matter, and I'm not just giving my time over to someone else because they asked for it, and I've created this like idea in my head that I somehow owe them. Another big sign that like you fully integrated is maybe, this was a me one. I used to journal and feel like I had to journal, and so I would be doing these journaling exercises or following this notebook or whatever. And it felt very perfunctory, and it felt like punishment. Honestly, this tool that was supposed to make me feel better just felt like something I had to do, and it was punishing me. And now when I journal because I want to. I pick up my journal because it feels good. I don't feel like I'm following a rule. I'm utilizing a tool, right? It's like, this is such a weird example, but it's like thirst, right? I mean, people say like if you wait to drink until you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And it's like if you're only journaling because you feel like you have to, like you're totally, the tool is no longer tooling for me. So I do it when it feels good. I do it when I have like the genuine desire, not because I feel like I have to do it. And that's how I know I fully integrated that tool for myself. And, a really big one is like we learn tools for nervous system regulation, right? Whether it be in therapy and coaching or whatever. And so you can do the tool, like they're like, here's the breath work you're going to do when you get triggered, right? And we're going to breathe and like your breath. I'm not saying this in like a mocking tone around breath work. Breath work is a very powerful tool. And that only really matters if like you can actually use the tool, if you can breathe when you're feeling triggered, right? Like when your boyfriend or the guy you're dating or your situationship, whatever, pisses you off, can you in that moment breathe? Okay, then we've integrated it, right? Like nervous system calibration isn't just something like ephemeral in the ethers. It's something like, no, I did it right here and right now. That's integration. And when we think about microdosing, right? It's like I'm not microdosing just on the days when I'm on the floor crying, I'm sobbing, I'm so upset, I just like need to pull myself out. I'm microdosing following a consistent protocol and a schedule to see the long-term benefits to bring the magic of microdosing into my everyday normal. This is when you know, like, it is fully an integrated way of being. And this is what integration is all about, right? It's not about something sounding cool in concept. It's about like feeling good and being useful in real life. So I've talked about integration on my bigger journeys. You know that I believe a lesson will keep popping up for you until you fully integrate it. So I'm curious, like what's something that you feel like you've learned this year, a message that you've gotten multiple times that you haven't like fully made your own, that you haven't fully embodied? And what is one step that you can take toward that 5149? So maybe, a lesson you've learned is I do get really mad. And when I'm mad, I say things I don't mean. And so maybe your lesson is like, I don't respond when I'm upset. Maybe it's giving yourself the 24-hour rule, which is something I apply for myself. My 24-hour rule is if I'm upset about something, I'm not going to reply in the moment. I'm going to give it 24 hours. Like, it's fine. I promise you, it'll still be fine in 24 hours. And on the flip side, if something rubbed me the wrong way and I don't say anything, or I don't think that I need to say anything, but it's still bothering me 24 hours later, then I know it's time to also say something, right? Like I owe it to myself because it's an open loop for me. So that's an example, right? If you know that you're someone who like doesn't choose the best words when they're hopped up, and I would say that's actually most of us, then don't. Give yourself a space, give yourself a time. That is one thing that that's a move you can make toward fully embodying the insight that you have about yourself, the awareness that you have around yourself. That's a step you can take toward living in the 51%, right? 49% of the time, it's okay. It's all okay. First of all, it's all okay. But instead of trying to think like, I'm just going to be this calm, grounded, centered person who always responds with love, if that's not you, that's okay. It's not about being perfect. You're not going to have this immediate like switch. It's just about the 51. So I love you. Really sit and think about that, because the lesson will keep repeating for you until you integrate it. And if this framework was calling to and you're like, yes, like I know that integration is the missing piece that I have not been doing in all of my therapy, coaching, then beautiful. DM me Limitless. You can apply for one of the 10 spots. It's application only. It is 10 spots only, and doors do close January 30th. So you're hearing this before then. Send me a message. Sending you so much love. I hope you have an amazing day. That's the end of today's trip. But remember, the real magic has always been inside of you. If this episode landed, send it to a friend who's ready to step into their next level. And make sure you're following the show so you never miss a dose. I'll be back again soon with another day on the path to your most limitless life. And until then, trust yourself, follow your intuition, and keep asking, how good can it get?